Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Publicly Buzzed Live on a Sunday edition, which is known and called Murder Church, folks. I hope everyone is in their seat. I know there's a lot of folks already hanging out in the chat here, but the bells are a-ringing. I'm very sleepy. I'm very tired. I was up to 1 a.m. Me and Dan playing a wrestling video game that just came out. Wasn't very smart. Also, live from hell here today. My AC unit also decided to shit the bed yesterday. So yeah, I'm hoping to God that it's just like a Freon issue and I can get somebody in here to just add some Freon. It would probably still be expensive, I'm sure. But better than like, not having AC. Man, it could definitely or will definitely be getting extremely hot. Thank you everyone for hanging out in here. Looking at the chat right now. Kaylin, Jay, City, Kitty, Mike H, P Fox, Rich Buddy, Art with Viv, Stevie Irwin. Yeah, Stevie pumping it up in the Discord this morning. Love to see it. Thank you very much for that. Jamie, thank you, brother, for coming into mod this morning. Everybody, good morning. I know I'm missing a few. Hold on, let me scroll back up here. Got the usual Murder Church crew in here. I can see Leanne White, Joanne, thank you all for hanging out. Tangled Crochet, Strike First, Strike Hard, new favorite in here. Love it. Thank you all so much. Yeah, all the new faces. Thank you all. Thank you guys so much. Megsy, thank you. And Megsy, I did see your message on Discord about me missing one of these. I'm going to have to go back and take a look at that. I didn't have time last night when I saw the message for the first time. And if we did miss one, I think you were saying it was, the last part of Detective Murphy's testimony. If we did skip that by mistake, I apologize. And maybe we can throw that in. But I want to look at it and see, again, you're probably right. But today we're going to be picking right back up into part 2 of the Dahmer trial, of course. Well, part 2 of Dr. Judith Beckner's testimony, rather, in the Dahmer trial that is continuous here so far. And it should be a good day. Again, it's going to be a shorter day today, folks. I can almost guarantee you it's already like pretty warm in here. And it's 9 a.m. So let's see if we can crank a couple hours out. See if we can get a couple of videos in and see what we can do. And yeah, thank you guys all for hanging out. Appreciate it. And
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Yes, indeed. Hopefully I got everything ready to rock and roll. I believe I do. Let me just look through the chat real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. As people continue to roll in for church, love it. Art, I do too. And I was like, you know what? We need some bells. We need some bells for church. Groot rolling through here. Thank you very much. Anna coming through. Do you have a shop vac? This happens to my IC, and I just have to hook it up to the line out. Okay, let me reread this. This happens to my IC unit, and I just have to hook it up to the line out by the unit. Maybe I'll do a little YouTubing. Okay, and I will say that I'm not handy at all. Like I'm not a man in that regard, sadly. Bobby, I love to see you, Bobby. Bobby always pumping me up out here with the comments. Love it. Morning, everybody. Laura, yeah, still have some beautiful faces coming through here this morning. Teresa, Lisa. Thanks, guys. Yeah, let's start this bad boy off. Again, anybody that had forgotten, yeah, again, Dr. Judith Beckner, a psychologist who specializes in adults and adolescents. I got a note here for it. Let's see here. Psychologist who focuses on adolescents and adult sexual offenders. So yeah, she's perfect for this. She was really astute last week and really enjoyed where we were at. So yeah, we'll start off here. She's probably, let's see, how many parts of her do we have? She might be today. I believe she will be today. Yeah. See if we can get through 2 of these before I die in hell here. Thank y'all so much. Let's do it.
He did not articulate to me that he was aroused by or had fantasies by cutting something or feeling any degree of arousal by anything that was still living and might be injured.
Okay, continue on, please.
I asked him whether or not he had any sexual contact with this friend named...
I do see. Member for 1 month, Leanne. Has it already been a month? Murder Church is the only church for me. That's what I like to see. But holy crap, what is wrong? like time. I don't even understand.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the continued party, Leanne. Appreciate that. And the beers in chat, you know, we give the beers out to the anniversaries as well, folks. Make sure the beers are flowing in chat here. I know it's early. Throw a mimosa in there. Throw a coffee in there. Get them pumped up for Leanne. Thank you so much, Leanne. That's awesome. As you guys coming through today, please hit that like. Helps us out here on the YouTube algorithm as well. Yeah, instantly. This has been quite the trial so far, and that is very true. Megsy jumping right into the grotesque instantly.
Jay, and he indicated, he claimed that there were not, he denied that they had engaged in any sexual activity. He claimed that there were not changes in the nature of his sexual fantasies at this point in time. In discussing this area of his life,
well, thank you so much, Teresa. Appreciate that. Teresa coming through with the 149 super chat. Thank you so much.
He remembered thinking that he did not know why anyone would want to kill themselves at this age or during the teenage years.
What significance is that?
Well, that it was just so alien to him, and this is the way most youth feel, you know, that they've got a lot to live for.
Okay.
And he felt he had a lot to live for. During the summer of his 18th year, he recalled that his parents divorced. His father moved into a motel, and his mother took his younger brother and moved. Jeffrey was left alone in the house. He recalled that his father began dating another woman. Jeffrey recalled being depressed and tried to deal with his feelings by drinking alcoholic beverages and smoking pot. He noted that it was during his senior year that he began having fantasies about finding a hitchhiker, killing him, and having sex with him. However, he recalled that was not able to act on those fantasies because he did not have a car, and there had been people at home until that point in time. After his high school graduation in the summer of 78 or 79, Jeffrey was unclear of the year, he reported that his mother decided to move to Wisconsin and take his brother. Jeffrey said that she made him promise not to tell his father where she was moving to.
Let me ask you whether or not his mother invited him to go along also, or not?
It's my understanding, and this was, I don't think I asked Jeffrey this in the interview. I think I read it in one of the police reports that his mother had asked Jeffrey to go along, but Jeffrey elected not to go.
Did Jeffrey indicate to you that he felt abandoned when his mother left or not?
He did not say that he felt abandoned, just that he didn't use that word. He used the word that he felt depressed.
He felt what?
Depressed.
Okay, continue on, please.
In the summer of 1978, he then had a car and was living alone at the house. He had been drinking and was returning home when he saw a hitchhiker. The hitchhiker was not wearing a shirt, and he debated about whether or not to pick him up. He finally decided to pick this man up. The man's name was, and it's all right to mention the names of the victims.
That's known.
His name was Stephen Hicks, who was approximately 19 years of age. Stephen Hicks got into the car and agreed to go back to the house, to Jeffrey's house. Jeffrey reported that they talked and smoked some marijuana. He reported that it was clear to him that Stephen Hicks was not gay. However, he wanted to keep him there. While Stephen was sitting on the bed, Jeffrey hit him in the head with a barbell and then strangled him with that barbell. Jeffrey recalled having smoked 1 or 2 joints and had consumed a 12-pack of beer that day. He reported that he decided to hit Stephen when he learned that he was not gay because he wanted to keep him with him.
At this point in time, as a clinician getting his history, has he now fulfilled his fantasy?
Yes, he has.
This is the first time?
First time.
Okay, go ahead.
In thinking back, Jeffrey stated that if he had only taken a different route, that episode would not have happened. He stated that he felt it was almost like it was set up to occur. After he knocked, and if I might just make a comment there, Mr.
Sure.
Boyle, is of interest to me, and I just picked it up, is that if you recall when I was relating the story about his friend in school who then told the principal, he used about the choking, he used the same phrase, that he felt that he was set up, and it's the same here. After he knocked Stephen Hicks out, he took his clothes off and masturbated. When it became dark, he took Stephen's body to the crawl space, laid him down, and left him there. He reported he could not sleep and felt very nervous about what he had done and about being apprehended. He reported that he masturbated while standing over the body and ejaculated on the body.
At this time, being a clinician, assuming all these facts were brought to your attention, other than the fact that he had just committed a homicide, it's clear that his was a very deeply troubled person.
Absolutely.
Continue on, please.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Jeffrey, during my interview with him, it was my perception that he had difficulty discussing in detail the specific sexual acts that he engaged in with his victims after death. When I arrived here on Sunday, I met with Jeffrey again, and I have, during that interview, I asked him again about certain specific sexual acts, and I have obtained more information. So if you would like, I could supplement that with my statements regarding the specific sexual acts.
At the end, please.
Okay.
Continue on.
He reported that he knew that Stephen was not gay because he had talked about his girlfriend. Jeffrey reported that he, quote, had a driving compulsion to do this, end quote. That is, to knock Stephen Hicks out and to keep him. Jeffrey reported that he tried to sleep, but wasn't able to do it. The next morning, he went to the store and purchased a large hunting knife, and he went to the crawl space and dismembered the body. He cut off the arms and legs. He recalled opening up the belly.
Now, at this juncture, this is the first time he opens up the belly of anything other than the dead animals, right?
That's correct.
You don't ever see him using a knife on any other, himself or any of his friends. This is the first time.
He did not report to me that he had ever used a knife on anyone else or on himself.
Or for any reason.
No.
Did he have to go purchase the large hunting knife?
You know, I don't recall asking him whether he had purchased it or whether the knife was there.
Well, your report says the next morning he went to the store and purchased
Then there it is.
Okay, continue on, please.
At 3 a.m. as he drove to the dump, he was pulled over by police for driving left of the center line. He indicated that he passed the sobriety test. I'm sorry, for driving left of center line. He indicated that he passed the sobriety test. The policeman shined the flashlight in the back seat of the car and noticed the trash bags. Jeffrey told him that he was taking the trash to the landfill. He reported that there was a slight odor because he had had the body for 1 or 2 days. The policeman let him go. Jeffrey turned around and went home and put the bags in the crawl space. He brought the head upstairs, laid it on the floor, and masturbated in front of it. The next morning, he put the bags behind the house in the woods. He burned the clothes of the victim and then threw the knife and Stephen's necklace into the river. I asked Jeffrey how he felt about this, about those actions, and he reported that he was high-strung, nervous, apprehensive, and thought a lot about what he had done. He reported that at this point his drinking increased and he would cry when he was drunk. He subsequently went to Ohio State University for 3 months. He stated that he, quote, flunked out, end quote. He reported that during this time, he drank all of the time. By this time, his father had moved back into the house with his new wife, Sherry. His father and Sherry thought it would be a good idea for Jeffrey to join the Army. I asked him if he knew, at this point, I asked him if he knew that it was wrong to take another person's life, and he reported that he knew that it was wrong. At age 18, he entered the Army and signed up for a 3-year enlistment. He subsequently served 2.5 years of that enlistment. He reported that he did his basic training in Alabama. They were not allowed to drink during the 4 weeks of their basic training, but then they were allowed to drink. He reported that one night he came back drunk and became ill. 2 other Army men started beating him up for getting the troop in trouble by getting drunk. Jeffrey reported that his eardrum was broken as a result of this beating. He did not tell his commanding officers about the beating. However, he felt that he wanted to get back at these men. He did not, and he repressed his anger. He continued to drink throughout his military enlistment. He spent 2 years in Germany and described his stay there as, quote, a drunken paradise, end quote. He reported that he drank constantly and mostly beer. He stated he felt frustrated sexually and that he was attracted to some of the men but felt he could not act on that attraction. He went to Frankfurt and bought pornographic material in the bookstores there. Most of the magazines profile bodies of males 16 years of age and older. He took care of his sexual drive via these magazines. He reported that his fantasies were still there, but his life was so regimented and he drank so much that he satisfied himself through pornography and masturbation. He reported that he was kept quite busy in the military. After work, he would go to bars and to the liquor stores and buy liquor at half price. He had made some friends and he would go to restaurants with them and talk. He reported not having engaged in any consensual sex while in the military. He reported that he was able to control his impulses through alcohol, the regimentation of the military, pornography, and masturbation. At age 21, he left the military. He wanted to go someplace warm and sunny, and consequently he went to Miami, Florida, where he stayed from March 81 to September 81. He reported that he ran out of money and would sleep on the beach. He worked at a sub shop, one of those submarine sandwich shops, 7 days a week. He reported that he worked so much and drank so much that he did not have time for anything else. He befriended a woman from England who worked at the same sub shop, and they would go to dinner together. He reported that this was a good friendship. In September of 1981, he moved back with his father and remained there for 2 or 3 months. He reported that he dug up the remains of Stephen Hicks, smashed them, and scattered them in the woods. He reported that he was still drinking at this time and that his parents became, quote, fed up, end quote, with his drinking. They thought it would be good for him to go to his grandmother's house, who lived in West Allis, Wisconsin, and help her with her chores. He did not want to go, but they insisted. At this point, he was drinking about a 6-pack a day. He reported that things worked out all right by going to live with his grandmother.
I'd like to stop at this time and ask you 2 questions.
Good time for us to stop as well, because I see Joanne M. just pop through and becoming a Buzzed and Confused level member here. Welcome to the crew, and yeah, welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party,
Love
pal.
it. Give her the beers in chat, everybody. Make sure you're popping some beers. Hey, it might be early. Give them some coffees. I think there's a mimosa in there. Maybe they want their coffee spiked. There's a little bit of liquor in there as well, and maybe they might want a little something that we're going to talk about. Maybe probably nothing. Thank you all so much. The satisfying pours are up on the screen. They make me so happy. Boom. Thank you all so much. Love it. I'll give you one of these also.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Start the day with Biggie. Am I right? Thank you so much. New members are so appreciated and welcome. And you are a producer here at Publicly Buzzed. And I see the chat laced up, lined up with beers. I love it. Thank you so much. Seriously, welcome, Joanne.
First of all, you read the police report, the confession.
Yes.
Jeffrey Dahmer had indicated to the police that he disposed of Mr. Hicks's bodies totally, completely, within a short period of time after the murders. He's telling you that it was 2.5 years later. What do you know from what you have learned to be the fact of that?
Well, I think, and again, even in my interviewing Jeffrey with this many victims, sometimes there would be a degree of confusion as to exactly how many days he kept the body, and sometimes even in terms of which victim he victimized at what point in time. So that might be an explanation.
But I wish to ask you this, is Jeffrey Dahmer has all of these fantasies and does all the things you've got us up to this point, and now he kills a human being, and he keeps the head, and he does the terrible things he does with that body. What effect does this have on him as he's going along, based upon the psychological profile that you have, as he continues on in his life with the knowledge that he has done something as terrible and as terribly grotesque as this?
Well, what Jeffrey told me was that he tried not to think about it. I mean, he tried to put, you know, this horrible act behind him, and it was not something he wanted to be reminded of.
As a clinical psychologist, based upon your knowledge and experience, and assume all the mechanics that you've told us about in Jeffrey Dahmer's life are in order as he approaches the killing of Mr. Hicks, is he, after killing Mr. Hicks, is he going to be successful in putting that out of his mind?
Well, the fact is he was not successful in putting it out of his mind, and he was not successful after a period of time in being able to not act on his sexual interest.
My question is, if a normal person, I'm saying a psychologically average normal person, were to have, for whatever reason, done exactly what Mr. Dahmer did, that is murder Mr. Hicks, without any of the other problems that led up to that, just on an impulse kill somebody like that, what kind of effect would you as a clinical psychologist expect to have that on the mind of a person with a conscience as they try and go along in their normal life's activity, having done something as horrendous?
If they had...
Speculation on a number of grounds.
Well, I will allow it if the witness indicates that she's able to testify to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty.
With those parameters, if you're not able to tell us, and if you are...
On the stand right now is psychologist Dr. Judith Beckner. Kelsey.
Tell us.
You know, it's, I guess, first of all, I would like to think that normal people don't kill other people. So it's difficult for me, you know, to say if a normal person, I would want to ask you, did this normal person kill somebody intentionally?
Okay.
Did they kill them in self-defense? I would need a lot more information, and actually would like to interview that normal person.
Okay, let's continue on then with where we are.
Thank you.
What is it after he moves to West Dallas, you ask him about his stepmother?
I asked him how he felt about his stepmother, and he reported that she was outspoken and gregarious. He indicated that he has a good relationship with her at the present time, that is the time I was doing this interview. And he indicated that his stepmother and his father had visited him several times since he had been imprisoned. At this point in the interview, again, I was interested in finding out more about Jeff's biological mom, and so I asked him again about his mother, and all that he stated was that she worked with AIDS patients. At this point, after he said that, he discussed his suicidal ideation, and again, that's not a phrase that Jeffrey used, but
what is a suicidal ideation?
When people are thinking about taking their own lives or having their life taken.
He brought that up?
Excuse me?
He brought that up?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
What he said to me was, quote, "I would like if a doctor gave an order for anesthetics," end quote.
What did that mean to you?
That he didn't want to live.
Okay, continue on.
He stated that he has felt this way since his arrest. He stated that it feels like there has been a nuclear explosion in his personal life, and all of this seems unreal to him. He stated that he has not made a suicide attempt, although he would know how to, and reported that when he is allowed to shave, he could simply cut his jugular. Jeffrey reported that he would like this trial to be over with as quickly as possible. He has not wanted to read any information regarding the publicity surrounding the case. He reported that he had not seen radio, TV, or newspapers since his arrest. I then got him back on track, in a sense, in terms of my history taking. He reported that at age 22, he had been out of work for 1 year and was receiving unemployment compensation. He stated that he was drinking a lot and looking for work. He would do work around the house for his grandmother and indicated that he had a nice relationship with her. His father would come to visit them on holidays. He continued to have fantasies regarding capturing people at that time, but he controlled them through pornography.
His fantasies.
His fantasies. I asked him about the nature of the pornographic material he had, and he stated that they were about gay issues. Some just showed male bodies and others acts. Some had bondage, but he didn't purchase these.
Did he tell you why not?
I want to be precise about this,
Sure.
okay? I think what he said was that it didn't interest him.
Okay.
He stated that at this point the incident with Stephen Hicks had begun to fade. I asked him if he had ever had any dreams or nightmares about Stephen. He reported that he had not.
What's the significance of that?
Well, you'd asked me before about if a person had taken the life of another person, how might it affect them? And for some people, when tragic things occur or they make tragic things occur, they might, be wrestling with it in their sleep. And he was not. He did not have any dreams or night terrors about this.
What is the
significance
of Jeffrey Dahmer at this age, having done the thing that he did? What is the significance of him not dreaming about Mr. Hicks?
Well, Jeffrey had said that what I think it is, I don't know for sure what the significance is,
Okay.
Mr. Boyle, okay?
I think you have to tell us to a reasonable degree of psychological certainty, so if you can't, just continue on.
Yeah, I guess what I would be most comfortable saying is that for a lot of people, when there are conflicts, sometimes it shows up in their dreams.
And
This was not showing up in his dreams.
Continue on, please.
He stated that he had no friends, was isolated, depressed, and lonely. He also reported in terms of meeting someone that he was reluctant to go to video booths because he was naive. At age 23, he obtained a job at the Plasma Center as a phlebotomist. He held this job for a period of 1 year. He reported that this was a low-paying job. He did not like the work, and he was ultimately fired for poor performance. He stated that he lost touch with his mother for about 6 years. This was between the ages of 21 to 27. And during this period, he did not have very much in the way of contact with his brother. He continued to frequent sexually explicit bookstores, and his fantasies remained the same. Over the period of ages 23 to 25, and after he lost his job, he decided to change his life around. He went to church with his grandmother, and he stated that he was able to repress his fantasies.
He's a phlebotomist. Could you imagine Jeffrey Dahmer extracting blood from you? No. No, thank you.
And desires. He tried to stop masturbating and actually decreased his masturbatory activity to 1 time per week. He reported that he had felt guilty and consequently stopped fantasizing. He told me that he knew that his fantasies were still lurking, but he tried to lead what he described as a, quote, straight and narrow life, end quote. At age 25, he was reading a book in a library when a man came by and dropped a note in his lap. The note said, quote, "Meet me in the bathroom, I'll give you a blowjob," end quote. Jeffrey stated this was the first time he had been propositioned and thought it was a strange thing to happen, and he also thought that this was bizarre. He stated that at this point his desires came back and the urges started to grow stronger and stronger. 2 months after this, he reports that his control broke down. He began drinking, frequenting the bookstores, and feeling guilty. His church attendance dropped off, and he gave up trying to resist the urges. He stated that he started going to video rooms, meeting people, and having sex. He discovered gay bars and went to them. He reported that at this point, magazines were not enough. The compulsion was very prevailing, and he failed in his attempt to resist it. He stated that he began going to bars approximately 3 times a week, but mostly on the weekends. During this time, he was employed, it's okay to say the type of industry,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle? He was employed at a chocolate factory where he mixed chocolate. He subsequently worked at the chocolate factory for a period of 7 years. While working at the chocolate factory, he made some friends but did not socialize with them after work. In essence, his life consisted of working and on weekends going to bookstores, gay bars, and bath clubs. He reported that at the baths, the notion was, quote, sex, anything goes, end quote. He reported that he used condoms some of the time. He stated that he liked being the active person in sex, that he only allowed anal penetration once or twice because it hurt him. He
We
reported...
are not using the name of the drug. So-
I will not.
Okay, thanks.
All right. He reported that he started using, and I'll just say a drug
Sleeping.
that had sedating effects.
Sleeping
okay?
pills, I
All right.
think.
He started using sleeping pills.
Terrified that she's going to say the real drug that he used here, and, you know, the world's going to be like, oh, shit. You know, I'm sure now at the internet age, that is very findable, and I would hope no one would hopefully is going to look that up and do anything, but let's just be real. Today, that would be probably something that would be very accessible and easy to find just from the story. But yeah, back then, in court, you know, this is probably being aired, I'd imagine, even on television at some point. They were trying to keep that under wraps, and I respect him for it.
During this period, because some guys wanted to perform anal sex and he did not.
There's a lot of weirdos out there that'd probably be like, oh shit, let's go find this. I mean, it probably wouldn't be as accessible hell today. Probably find it on Amazon or some shady ass website. But yeah, I wonder how. But then again, yeah, he was probably collected it from randomly working in the medical field, possibly here.
Want to. This was a way of keeping them. Specifically, he did not want to be the recipient of anal sex, and consequently, if he were to drug the person, they would then fall asleep and he would not have
That's
to...
a good point too, Brooklyn. Yeah, it's not like he was like always in his right headspace. He was always blackout, belligerent drunk. He had a massive major alcohol problem. So that's a very good point.
Participate in anal...
'Cause I know anybody that's gotten really, really drunk the day after, you don't recall any part of your dreams at all. At least usually you can. I have difficulty recalling a lot of my dreams, but at first you could still like get that glimpse before it kind of dissipates and disappears. But if you're blackout drunk, you're not remembering shit, you know. And this was not affecting him at all in his daily like actual subconscious life, which is scary and horrifying that you could do something this vicious and this crazy, and then just the next day, the next hour, be walking around. Let's go get a ham sandwich out of the fridge or something.
Sex, where he was the receptive partner. That is where the person would put their penis in him. He reported that he would go to the baths on weekends and have approximately 3 or 4 partners, but would never leave with anyone. He stated it was not possible to have a relationship because he was still living at his grandmother's house. He indicated that he tried to control the compulsion and went to a store at closing time. He was trying to control his compulsion. So he went to a store when it was about to close. He hid out in the store, and then he stole a mannequin from the store and brought it to his house. He kept this mannequin for 2 weeks. He would stand over the mannequin and masturbate. His grandmother saw the mannequin and asked him where he got it. He then took the mannequin out and disposed of it. In another attempt to control his sexual fantasies and behaviors, he began to screen the obituaries.
Wow, so Jeffrey Dahmer messed Willy Wonka up for you. Holy shit. Yeah, Brooklyn, Jeffrey's the reason I can't watch Willy Wonka. Okay. Just imagine Jeffrey Dahmer in the in that character space. As Willy Wonka.
And went to a funeral home to find a male of the physique and age that he was attracted to. He found one, and the deceased was 18 years of age. He then went to the graveyard and was going to dig up the body, but the ground was too hard. He reported that while he was in the graveyard, a dog barked and an owl hooted.
Yeah, they like to use the word sleeping potion. Yeah, that took us off a couple of weeks ago.
And he found this to be rather eerie, and he left. He reported that he made attempts to resist his impulses, but they were useless. The obsessions and compulsions were his main focus, and the only time that brought him pleasure.
The only things that...
The only things, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
He reported that he thought about them all the time. I asked him at this point about other paraphiliac behaviors, paraphiliac meaning sexually deviant. He told me that he had exposed himself approximately 5 or 6 times before being arrested, and that the
Damn it! Should have not even talked about it.
targets were always teenage boys. He stated that he would have preferred to have exposed himself to non-minors, but it was safer exposing to younger boys. He exposed himself and masturbated in the park and was arrested for lewdness to a 13 and 14-year-old boys.
That a little bit better, Jay. Ladies and gentlemen. Might have been a little low there. I apologize. Feels a little low.
He reported that he never propositioned them. That is, I asked him if he had. He was evaluated and placed on probation and saw a doctor, should I just say a therapist? Or
No, her name is no.
A Dr. Rosen for a period of 1 year for therapy. He stated that he was resentful at having to see Dr. Rosen, and he felt that he had things under control. Consequently, he felt he could, quote, give her a snow job and get it over with, end quote. He reported that he was defiant up to the point of sometimes turning his back on Dr. Rosen and facing the wall. He did not feel that he could get anything positive out of the therapy. Now, Mr. Boyle, there are 2 pieces of information that may be of relevance but are not in my notes.
Would you just read them and counsel will understand?
Okay. To tell you what those 2 pieces
Yes,
are?
please.
Okay. One is, what's not in my notes, is there's another form of paraphilia called frottage. That means to rub, and people who rub their bodies against other people who have not given them permission to do that. And a number of years ago, at some kind of event, I don't recall if it was a concert or not, he rubbed his body up against a couple of guys who were at that concert, and that was the only time, at least, that he reported that he did that.
But that's to a live person.
A live person,
conscious
yes.
person.
A conscious person.
Okay.
The other, I subsequently asked Jeffrey what was the nature of the therapy that he received at this point. That is, when he went into therapy, what was the focus? He had been arrested for public lewdness to minors. So I was wondering if that was the focus of therapy. That is, was the focus dealing with the behavior of exposing himself to young boys? He reported that was not the focus of the therapy. The focus of the therapy was on his drinking behavior when he entered the therapy.
So his therapy, from what he said, was focused on something other than the paralytic problem
Right.
yet. Go ahead.
At age 20, he denies engaging in other forms of paraphilic behavior, including voyeurism, transvestism, transsexualism, and telephone scatologia. Those are all other forms
Tell
of...
us what they are. What's voyeurism?
Peeping Toms, people who... transvestism is individuals who like to dress in the clothing of someone of the opposite sex. Transsexualism, that's actually an individual who believes that they are the person of another sex. So I said, do you feel that you are a woman trapped in a man's body? He said he was not. Telephone scatologia, that's obscene phone calls.
Okay.
At age 26, he reported that he was heavily into the bath clubs. He bought a large TV and VCR and began buying pornographic videos. These consisted of striptease acts and what he called, quote, heavier sex, end quote. He started drinking on weekends and would consume 24 cans of beer over a Friday and Saturday.
Well, would that be 24 cans total or?
Total.
So
over
12
the
a
weekend.
day if he is splitting them, right?
I don't know that it came out exactly to be 12 a day, but he said over that weekend,
Okay,
24 cans.
Go ahead.
Okay. He stated that he began working on Sunday evenings. After a year of being a member of a bath club, his membership was revoked because he used pills and liquor on the premises. While at the bathhouse, his interest was, quote, finding the best-looking guy, end quote, laying and touching him and listening to his heartbeat.
Did he explain why this listening to the heartbeat was an important factor or not?
No.
Did you ask him?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Sometimes he would fall asleep with the person. He reported that it cost $10 a night to stay in a room at the bath club and $1 for each additional hour. He reported that at the bath club, a person could get a double or single room with mirrors, tables, a lock on the door, and some rooms had...
Yeah, it was a censorship on her part, right? They called it a snow job, right? Like, that's what happened there, right?
...videos. He reported that at this time, he was working the night shift at the chocolate factory, would go to the bars on weekends, usually around 2 a.m. He reported that once he got to the bathhouse, he would find a person and then lay next to the person and masturbate and engage in what he called, quote, light sex, end quote. He reported that most of the men he met there did not want just the light sex, but wanted what he called, quote, heavy sex, end quote. He stated that once the person was asleep, he did not feel quite so rushed or pressured with the person. He reported that he would fix a drink in which he would put approximately 5 sleeping pills, and this would keep the person asleep for approximately 8 hours. He stated he would stay with the person, staying awake for about 3/4 of the time, and then he would sleep with the person. Usually, he would masturbate 3 times during that period. He reported that he never injured anyone and never recalled attempting to strangle any of these men that he stayed with at the bathhouse. He stated that once he was in the room, he would have some conversation.
Shit. We'll take a little break from this very graphic testimony that's happening currently. Shannon, thank you so much, has come through and gifted Kaylin a membership. Wow, that's awesome. Hell yeah.
Welcome to the party.
Love that. Make sure the beers are flowing in the chat right now, everybody. Getting some satisfying pours. Yeah, fill the beers up for Kaylin. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
And,
I don't believe you.
wrong one. Sorry, I always do that.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Kaylin, welcome. And an absolute, one of the best news supporters here at Publicly Buzzed. Always, and again, a producer, right? Sending me content regularly on Twitter. Met through the J-Bo Nation, of course. Welcome, Kaylin and Shannon. Thank you so much.
With the person, mix them a drink and kiss them. The person would then get groggy, and the person would then fall asleep. He indicated that he would only experience an erection about 10% of the time when the person was in an awakened state. He reported that once the person fell asleep, he had complete control and could do what he wanted at his leisure. He did not have to entertain the person, and he felt that he could leave the room if he wanted to. He indicated that he had drugged 10 or 15 people before the management learned what he was doing. Subsequently, his membership was revoked. He then started using...
Yeah, this dude had a problem. 24 cans of beer over a weekend? Are you kidding me? Dude, when I do drink, like Friday night, that was a lot for me, and I had like 3. And I was at a good state, of course you could probably do the whole 6er and get fucking drunk, but I mean,
in a local hotel room. And he stated that at this point, the bathhouse had been a much more controlled environment.
No, he's telling you that when they're in an awakened state, he can only do something 10% of the time.
He could only get an erection 10% of the time.
Did you ask him about the other times when they were asleep?
Yeah, when they were asleep, he was able to get erections, and I think it's somewhere here in my notes, it was either 90 or 100% of the time.
And of course, he told you that during the time they were asleep, he was masturbating 3 times.
Yes, he was.
Okay, continue on, please.
Between the ages of 26 and 27, he started taking men to hotel rooms. And again, there's a piece of information missing here, Mr. Boyle. Actually, before Stephen Toomey, he had taken approximately 9 men to hotel rooms.
All of those left None of those were
He
killed.
didn't murder any of them.
Did he harm any of them?
No. He didn't self-report murdering or harming any of them.
Did he give them drinks with pills in them
Yes.
or not? He did?
Yes.
Okay, continue on.
He reported that these were regular hotels. He met Stephen Toomey, his second victim, at closing time at a gay bar. He went to the hotel room with Stephen and engaged in consensual sex. He reported that he made a drink that was 150 proof rum with Coke. Stephen then fell asleep after half an hour. He reports blacking out and waking up in the morning. Stephen was in bed on his back. Jeffrey recalls being on top of him. He reported that Stephen's head was over the side of the bed and there was a bruise on his chest. He stated that he, Jeffrey, had a bruise on his arm. Jeffrey was shocked when he saw that Stephen was dead. He stated that he had no intention of murdering him, and he stated that the bottle of rum was missing from the room. Jeffrey stated that he did not engage in sex with Stephen after he was dead, and then I go on to name the hotel.
Well, that's right. That's known as the Ambassador Hotel. But,
Okay.
but the fact of the matter is he did not engage in sex with him while he was in the hotel. After death.
Actually, after death, he did engage in sex with this person. He engaged in sexual acts after death with every single one of his victims. I don't recall, however, if it was there at that hotel.
Okay.
He stated that seeing Stephen dead brought back memories of 1978 and...
Oh, yes, indeed, Lisa. I remember this case going on. Yes, I'm old, but I don't recall the details, so this is interesting to watch. Thanks. Absolutely, that's where I'm at. And of course, I was I was really young. I was like 5 years old when this was actually happening. But I did not know what to expect when we were going into this. I didn't even look for it. Here's the thing. I know the history. I've watched it, but I guess I didn't look into the trial side of it. I know about the murders. I know about his life. But I didn't know that this was an insanity trial until I started looking into it. And I'm like, okay, oh yeah, he was pretty open to everybody, including the police, about what he had done. So it's not even about, guilty or not guilty. This dude is guilty. We need to figure out if this guy needs to go to a mental institution for the rest of his life, or if he, knew what the hell he was doing and was actively trying to hide it, right? Cognitively, and he needs to go to prison. So this thing has been so interesting and so enlightening, quite frankly. And the experts and the psychologists and the psychiatrists and the testimonies and the battles of arguments of law, this has been super exciting. Like, I'm really glad that I took this on. And everybody that comes in here every Sunday morning for Murder Church, thank you all so much. It's amazing. You're going to get an extra bell ring this morning. Extra bell ring. Extra bell ring.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Thank you all so much.
And his first victim, Stephen Hicks. He stated that he had paced the floor, felt horrified, shocked, and frightened, and could not believe this had happened. He then put the body in a closet and went to a mall. He bought a suitcase and subsequently put the victim inside of the suitcase. He then rented the room for another night. At 1 a.m., he checked out and took a taxi to his grandmother's house. He kept the body in the fruit cellar for approximately 9 days. One day, while his grandmother was at church, he laid the body out and, according to Mr. Dahmer, quote, slit open the belly and masturbated. This was exactly the same behavior that Mr. Dahmer had engaged in with his first victim. I asked him if this had brought back memories, and he stated that when he had cut open his first victim, he was surprised at the color of the different organs. He then purchased triple bag trash cans, and again, I apologize to the family members and to the jury, cut off the flesh of his victim into what he described as fist-sized pieces and put 25 pounds into each bag. He reported that he saved the skull and put the torso in an old sheet and then smashed it with a sledgehammer. Mr. Dahmer mentioned that there were this continues, I'm sorry.
That interview then ended for that day.
Yes, it did.
And you started up the next day.
When I saw Jeffrey the next day, he said that there were 2 Bibles that he had in his room, that is at the prison, a study Bible and the New King James Bible. and there was a passage in one of the books that he wanted me to see. Consequently, he asked if the guard would be able to bring the Bible down. Later on that day, the guard did bring the Bible down, and he showed me the passage of the book, and I will comment on that later. In regard to his second victim, Mr. Toomey, Jeffrey put the bag...
100%. I'm going to read this one out, yeah. Brooklyn, again, thank you for being here. I always love the input. Jeffrey wants to seem insane, but remember how much work he put into this stuff. He actively hunted, detained these men, Netflixed and killed, and even sometimes didn't kill them right away. Yeah, he brought them to his place, usually saying either going to come and take some pictures, or for sex, or however he lured them there. Then once they were there, he would drug them, and then they would start watching some kind of weird fucking movie, what, The Exorcist 2, Exorcist 3, whichever one it was, and then he would rape, kill. I mean, not even in that order necessarily. I mean, he was, I 100% believe that he should have been in prison. I 100% agree with what actually happened here. Insane, sure. I mean, we can use that word, but the dude fucking with premeditated is also the word here, because he knew what was happening. A decade between his first murder and his second, and then when he couldn't control himself and he went on this rampage, sure, the compulsion is there and he's absolutely out of control and can't control it, and his brain is broken and something's fucked up, but truly insane, right? We've seen some truly insane people. Maybe the debate would be between him and someone like Ed Gein, if anybody knows the Ed Gein story. Ed Gein was pretty fucking insane.
In a trash disposal. He reported that he kept the skull and called a taxidermist. He then boiled and bleached the skull and kept it for 1 week. He would view the skull and masturbate in front of it. He reported that with this victim, he recalled engaging in light sex initially, and then after he realized that he was dead, he masturbated on 2 occasions prior to disposing of the body. He stated that he felt depressed and anxious, and this incident triggered his complete moral decline. I asked him at this point whether or not he thought about his victims, and he reported that when images started to come back, he felt uncomfortable, and he tried to dissociate because of these uncomfortable feelings. He tried not to think about them. At age 28, he met his third victim, James Doxtator, who he thought was approximately 16 years old and who he thought was an American Indian. He was working at the chocolate factory at that time and was living at his grandmother's.
You're talking about Dahmer was working at the factory.
Right. I'm sorry, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. He reported that he was paying his grandmother $400 a month for rent and was helping her with the chores, such as weeding the garden. According to Jeffrey, she was glad when he brought her chocolate from the chocolate factory. According to Jeffrey, he had been at a bar on a Saturday night. He was standing in front of a bus stop and saw an attractive male. He assumed that this male had been drinking and asked him if he wanted to spend the night for $50. The victim agreed and took a bus to his home. That's the grandmother's home. They sat in the living room while his grandmother was asleep. They laid together, kissed, and engaged in oral sex. The male said that he had to be back by morning, and Jeffrey did not want him to leave, so he fixed him a drink. When the victim fell asleep, he strangled him. After he was dead, Jeffrey laid with him for a while and then had anal sex. He placed the body in the fruit cellar and put a blanket over him. The next morning, he ate breakfast with his grandmother, and she went off to church. He kept the third victim's body for 1 week. During this period of time, he would lay with him and masturbate. At the end of the week, he laid the body out and, according to Jeffrey, quote, defleshed it, end quote. He kept the skull and viewed it. He stated that he may have masturbated in front of the skull, but does not remember. He reported that the bleach solution he had used was too strong and the skull started crumbling. According to Jeffrey, his compulsion was in full swing at this time. However, he was attracted to this third victim and wanted to keep him. His fourth victim, a Hispanic male, approximately age 21, named Richard Guerrero. Jeffrey was at the Phoenix bar at closing time. He propositioned this victim, offering him $50. They went to Jeffrey's bedroom, laid there, and drank. They had light sex, and Jeffrey then fixed him a drink and subsequently strangled him.
Don't drink it.
Light sex, according to Jeffrey, consisted of caressing, kissing, and mutual masturbation.
Light sex to Jeffrey Dahmer is just choking you to death.
He reported that he did not get an erection.
I'm sorry, I think you said did not. Your report says he did.
He did.
Imagine coming over to Jeffrey Dahmer's house. I mean, I'm going to make a joke here, but he kills you and you still can't even get an erection?
I'm sorry, he did get an erection.
Okay, excuse me. That changes everything.
According to Jeffrey, the actual act of strangling is not arousing to him. He then took the body to the basement, defleshed it, put it in a trash bag, and saved the skull. He kept the skull for several months and brought it to his 24th Street apartment when he moved there. He reported that the police never found the skull. He left his grandmother's home because he wanted to live on his own and because once his grandmother had commented on his bringing a young man to her home. This made him feel uncomfortable, and he made up a story about why the young man was there. 1 month after he moved, he ran into a young Asian male and invited him to his home to take.
Yeah, that's what's really sad, is I'm seeing multiple people say that. The actual families and anybody that's seen the impact statements at the end of this one, they're truly impactful. They leave a mark. They're very intense. And even the last thing that Jeffrey Dahmer says when he addresses everyone, I think it's pretty impactful, to be quite honest. He's a fucked up dude, but him being so honest at the end kind of gave us at least some kind of like window into his mindset to a degree, I believe. I truly think that. Fuck the dude to the end, and I have no remorse for him whatsoever, but you know, the way he handled it at the end it really has given us a real view of a lot of different things, because he's a different type of serial killer when it comes to that aspect. A lot of these guys want to hide it to the end, and they want to play their cards right. He was just like, you got me. He's fucking tired, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, the victims' families that are in this courtroom that are having to sit through this, my God, couldn't imagine.
Take pictures.
Because this is not just, I mean, murders are horrible, right? Well, I'm currently watching the YNW Merley trial with the Jay. You know, the testimonies in this, horrible. They're describing in detail what's happened inside of that car. Horrible. And the families are in there, and you cannot imagine. But even to another level, you know, when there's necrophilia involved, when there's cannibalism involved, there's another level of desecrating a body, honestly, that will fuck with the family. Like, we live in a really messed up world. We truly do. But, you know, each case has its own, you know, insane parts to it, however you want to put that, to use the word insane in this insanity trial. But I don't know, man. But yeah, to the point that I'm making here with everyone in chat, the families, man. Absolutely. Again, Lisa, those poor families and their families now having to listen to all this. Horrible. Anybody watch the Netflix show? The part about that was true. The comic books that were being made and written. And I'm sure they're probably findable, probably for a nice chunk of change if you actually wanted them. But yeah, there was like Jeffrey Dahmer versus Jesus Christ, and the victims were actually in these comics, right? And those things went, for the time period, the early 90s, quote unquote, viral, essentially, for what we would call it today. Those things started getting picked up. They, you know, and again, if you find those probably on eBay, I'm sure there's actually worth probably a chunk of change. But they were out there in circulation. That part of the Netflix show blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, I didn't even know that, right? Like, and I looked that part up, and I'm pretty sure that was actually, well, the comics are 100% true, but the way that they, you know, almost superheroized or glamorized Jeffrey Dahmer for a minute there, not everybody, of course, but, you know, there's a lot of fucked up people out there.
Jeffrey offered, let me see. Jeffrey reported that he took pictures of the young.
It's a good question, too. I hate to keep pausing here, Angel, but I like having a discussion here on Murder Church also. Angel, do you think that Dahmer tells his story because he enjoyed reliving the experience, or because he wants to work out if he's normal? That's a damn good question. That'd be a great question for Shannon, Jay, quite frankly.
Young male in his underwear, and then offered him a drink. The young male then left, went home, and told his parents. According to Jeffrey, he did not plan on killing this person. He just wanted to take pictures and engage in light sex. Jeffrey was subsequently arrested, placed on 1-year work release, and given 5 years probation. He reported that this arrest, quote, scared the hell out of me, end quote. According to Jeffrey, the reason he did not plan to kill him was that he had to go to work that night, and that helped him control his compulsion. His fifth victim was Anthony Sears, approximately 25 years of age, who Jeffrey defined as half black and half white. At the time that he met this victim, he was still going to bars, was approached by Anthony Sears. Jeffrey invited him back to his home and did not offer him money. They were given a ride to Jeffrey's grandmother's house where he was staying by a friend of the victim. Jeffrey reported that they engaged in light sex. He had given this victim a drink mixed with a sleeping pill. The victim fell asleep and Jeffrey strangled him. At this point in the interview, I asked Jeffrey whether or not his arrest had not served as a deterrent to further engaging in necrophilic behavior. Jeffrey reported that the compulsion had been so strong that he had killed the victim right after the arrest and prior to being incarcerated. He masturbated on this victim and also had anal sex with him. Jeffrey laid for 1.5 to 2 hours with the victim. He severed the head and disposed of the body and saved the genitals. He wanted to preserve the head and put it in a...
Yeah, to that aspect, right? Brooklyn saying after he totally immersed himself in religion, that's true. At least that was what was shown in the Netflix show as well. And I think that is true in his real life. He was talking to a preacher or something, somebody, a religious figure. I'm not going to get into it. I don't actually know without saying whether it was him being Catholic or what. I think he actually grew up in some sort of religious aspect that he never really truly adapted to either. But in his later life, but the thing is, all these guys do that at the end, right? They all get freaked out. They all start, all of a sudden, what do they think? They're going to hell all of a sudden? Like, what were you thinking when you were actively doing these grotesque and horrible things? Like, that's hard for me to accept.
A 10-gallon pail with a lid. He soaked the head and genitals in acetone, which served to, quote, mummify them, end quote. He reported that they dried for 2 weeks. Subsequently, he would hold the head in his hands and masturbate. According to Jeffrey, the head represented the essence of the person. I asked him if he spoke with the head, and he reported that he may have, but he didn't recall what he had said. He did not take any pictures of the head. At this point, Jeffrey purchased a black table for a temple that he was going to build. It was to be an area of worship to give him more control financially, socially, and in every area of his life. It was to be a center for, quote, gathering energy, end quote. He reported that he had been attending occult bookshops and had purchased a book, the Satanic Bible. Jeffrey had purchased this table prior to going to prison. He had spray painted his fifth victim's skull with a granite compound and put the head and genitals in a cosmetic case and stored it at the chocolate factory while he was incarcerated. At this point, I asked him about the ethnicity of his victims. He stated that 10 of his victims were black and 7 were not. He stated that his victims were Hispanic, black, and Asian.
And white.
Holy shit, I didn't know that. Megsy. The first movie came out in 1993. Wow, I'm about to see if I can find that real quick.
And white. He also reported that 5 were not homosexual. Jeffrey targeted people whose physique and looks were particularly attractive to him.
Well, hold on. Hopefully we're still alive here. I'm going to have to find where we were at.
That he was aroused by or had fantasies by cutting something or feeling any degree of arousal by anything that was still living and might be injured.
Okay, continue on, please.
I asked him whether or not he had any sexual contact with his friend named Jay, and he indicated...
If you can hear me, I got a frozen screen on my side, but I got the video still playing. So give me 1 second. Let's see if I can see it.
He claimed that there were not, he denied that they had engaged in any sexual activity. He claimed that there were not changes in the nature of his sexual fantasies at this point in time. In discussing this area of his life, he spontaneously recalled that one girl in his Latin class had committed suicide and another girl had shot herself. He remembered thinking that he did not know why anyone would want to kill themselves at this age or during the teenage years.
What significance is that?
Well, that it was just so alien to him, and this is the way most youth feel. You know,
well, I'm going to keep on rolling, but yeah, like on my side on the actual screen, I'm like frozen. I'm not even going to change any screens. I'm just going to keep on rolling here, folks, and I should be able to change to the next video, though, so, but yeah, sweet, but yeah, I don't think I can even put any, well, maybe. I'm not even going to try. We're good to go. We're good to go. But yeah, my home screen is fucking chaos. It's 100%. I organize it about once a month, and I do a lot of editing and a lot of downloading and stuff, you know, pictures and stuff as I edit videos, so, but yeah, I should honestly keep it way more organized. I killed Dan with that, because he'll see it and be like, what the fuck is going on? Graysar, thank you for being here. Yeah, hopefully this is all still happening. I had a little bit of a crash there just for a second, but we're still rolling, baby. Well, actually, we need to find where the hell we are. I think we were down through here. Fuck. Hold on. Not out of the woods yet. Murder Church, baby.
He stated that this victim, he stated that his victims were Hispanic, Black, and Asian.
And white.
He also reported that 5 were not homosexual. Jeffrey targeted people whose physique and looks were particularly attractive to him. So in some cases that would be an ethnic minority, and in some cases it might be a person who was heterosexual. Jeffrey was released from prison after 9 months. He then took the skull from the cosmetic case and took the flesh off of it, but saved the skull. He liked and saved the genitals and the scalp because he stated that this victim had a nice head of hair. He stated at this time, quote, "Maybe I was born too late. Maybe I was an Aztec," end quote.
I want to ask you a few questions about this last paragraph. What's the Aztec aspect of this? Did you ask what he meant by that?
I did ask a young man with the initials LP who was waiting tables. He was Hispanic, and Jeffrey believed him to be around 16 years old. He propositioned him, and the man agreed to go to his apartment. They kissed, masturbated, and watched videos. Jeffrey did not have any pills available to him that weekend. He went to an Army surplus store and bought a mallet. He took pictures and had him lay on his stomach. He struck him on the back of the neck with the mallet. The guy got up and attempted to leave the apartment and said he would call the police. This male left and then came back in and asked Jeffrey for money for a cab. Jeffrey tried to strangle him at this point, but then calmed down, and they both went into the bedroom. Jeffrey called him a cab and he went home.
Shit. Tangled Crochet coming through with a gifted membership. Aspiring court reporter getting it there. Bam! Throw the beers in the chat, everybody.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Love it. Hell yeah. That's what I like to see.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Hell yeah. Beers in chat. Let's see if this ever straightened up over here. No, it didn't. Okay, yeah. I'm not going to fuck with it. Ladies and gentlemen, Murder Church is also coming to you from hell today. My AC is messed up. So I'm not going to be doing a full-on show today anyways, or I will actually die. I will actually die live on the internet. No one wants that. The movie is ridiculous and hilarious. Yeah, I want to check out this early movie. Get rid of that also. Yeah, that's what I like to see. Get them drinks out. Get them drinks out. Sunday afternoon in London. Kale's coming through. That's a brilliant watch. Love it. Thank you, Kales. Appreciate it. under review coming through here also. Thanks, guys. Mosh also. Wow, and another gifted membership. Shelly Tarbit coming through, getting it from Vicky. Hopefully I did not butcher that name. Wow. Welcome to the party. Throw the beers out. Passing more beers out. Thanks, everyone, for coming through here again on a Sunday morning. The 1st of July here, 2nd of July, but, early in the month. Mandy, thank you for being here. Jamie, thank you for being here, killing it in the chat, modding it up. Hell yeah. Thanks, guys. Again, it's weird. Every time I go back to look at the screen where I can usually see the movements and everything that's happening, I'm frozen. So, yeah, this is awesome that you guys can still at least hear me.
Jeffrey said that this young male did call the police, but the police never followed up on the call.
What is your belief, if you know, belief, what is it, why didn't he kill him?
Why didn't he kill him?
Yes.
I have a hypothesis, Mr. Boyle, but I don't know if this is accurate or not. This was a young male, and it's quite possible that Jeffrey might have had some notion in his mind that if he killed a very young person, there might have been more done in the way, parents would know a young person was missing. Maybe.
I'm going to object that this is based on speculation by what you said. Ask that the answer be stricken.
Motion granted.
Continue on, Doctor.
Edward Smith, a black male, age 25, was his 7th victim. He met this victim at a bar. He reported they had light sex. He drugged the man, strangled him, and took pictures. He defleshed him, boiled his skeletons, saved the skull, and dried it out in a closet. He disposed of the internal organs, but saved the skull and bones. He did have sex after he strangled the person. This consisted of touching, laying with him, masturbating 3 or 4 times over a course of 2 days. Jeffrey stated that he went to Sears and bought a 5-square-foot floor freezer with locking top to store the defleshed bones. He also purchased 2 30-gallon plastic trash bags to put the defleshed remains in. He poured muriatic acid to acidify the flesh and then flushed the remains down the toilet. He then placed the 2 skeletons in these gallons. 2 months later, he met his 8th victim, Ernest Miller, a black male in his mid-20s. Jeffrey stated that he met this man at the 27th Street bookstore. He propositioned and then went with him to his apartment. He had only a few pills available. While the victim was asleep, he thought, quote, "How should I keep him?" end quote. He did not want to put this person through any pain, and consequently he stabbed him in the jugular. He reported that the victim died quickly. He reported that Jeffrey had to consume alcoholic beverages before he was able to stab the person. He then placed the body on a table and took many pictures. He kept the body for several days, masturbated on it, kissed it, and laid with it. He then took the body into the bathroom and defleshed it. He left the body there for a period of time. Someone in the apartment complex complained about an odor. Police were called and knocked on a nearby apartment door. They never entered Jeffrey's apartment. He finished defleshing the body, saved the head, and defleshed the skeleton, which he kept for 1 week. He then took the legs, heart, and kidneys and sliced them and stored them in freezer bags. After 1 week, he took the head out and masturbated in front of it. I asked
So much detail here. Wow. Again, every morning, every show, always a trigger warning here on Publicly Buzzed, but
Jeffrey at this point where he was obtaining the sleeping pills. He reported that he obtained it from a physician. He stated that the doctor was worried about him becoming addicted to it. He told the doctor that he worked the 3rd shift and had trouble getting to sleep during the day, and consequently he needed the medication. He saw the doctor once every 2 months and reported that the pills cost him $30 monthly. I asked him if he ever took the medication himself, and he reported, quote, "once in a while," end quote. Jeffrey made it clear to me that he drugged his victims because he did not want to hurt them or for them to feel any pain. Jeffrey did take pictures of this body. According to him, the body had tipped over and some skin scraped off of the face. He reported that he was surprised that the color under the skin was different than the color of the skin. He boiled the skull and skeleton and saved it. He wanted to save it permanently and was going to use this one skeleton on his temple. He painted the skull with granite spray paint. He tried tasting the flesh and the heart. He bought a tenderizer, tenderized the heart, and ate it and the muscle meat. He reported that it had a beef-like flavor. It gave him a sexual thrill while eating it. He felt that the man was a part of him and he had internalized him. He reported having an erection while eating it. He did not ejaculate, but did use the pictures to masturbate to ejaculation. At age 29, he met David Thomas, his 9th victim.
Okay, I think at this point I'd like to take a recess, a short one, about 5 minutes or so.
Sure.
All right. See if I can make a change here without destroying or crashing this shit. Let's see how long part 3 here is here with, again, defense psychologist Dr. Beckner. 46 minutes. Yeah, let's get through this one. Let's get through another one here, and I will probably call it a Sunday. I can't. Every time I look over, it freaks me out because I'm frozen. We'll call it a Sunday. We'll call it a murder church. Again, thank you all so much for being here.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
This is gun country.
Love all of you guys, and yeah, let's go into part 3 here, and we will continue again next week. A continuation of Dr. Becker.
Would you continue on, Doctor, if you know where you were, so I don't have to repeat this, please? I think we're at the
David Thomas?
I think age 29.
Not 19?
Yeah.
Okay. At age 29, Jeffrey met David Thomas, his 9th victim. He reported that he met him on his way to a bar. He propositioned him and then brought him back to his apartment. They watched a video. He gave him a drink, strangled him, and then posed him.
Oh, shit. Before we get rolling here, Bonnie Bailey coming through with the $5. Thanks for streaming this for us. Pastor Steve, sick as it is. Man, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Actually, I'm hoping that came through on the screen. Thank you, Bunny, so much. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah, Murder Church rolling right on through, going into July, week 6, Jeffrey Dahmer insanity trial. Amazing.
He kept the body for 1 to 2 days, and he laid the body on the edge of his tub and, quote, slit open his belly, end quote. He took pictures of him. He defleshed him, acidified the flesh and skull, and kept the skull. He wanted to dry the skull out quicker and consequently took the victim, Edward's skull and David Thomas's skull, and put them in the oven. He reported that he heard popping noises and that it was the water vapor expanding in the skull and flaking. The skulls were destroyed. He did not save the body or eat any part of it. Jeffrey mentioned that an escalation of his behavior had occurred. The initial behaviors were now not as satisfying to him, and that his, quote, moral compass had been shot, total depravity, end quote, period. Although he functioned at work, he spent his time fantasizing about necrophilia and his compulsion in this area. He stated he lived for the weekends. At this age, he went to Chicago for a vacation and met a man at a bath club. The man was black. They went back to his apartment, and Jeffrey drugged him. He stated that for some reason, he did not do anything else. He just masturbated and kissed this man, and the man left. He did not kill this man, and he felt that it might be that he was not as attracted to him as he thought he would be. At age 30, Jeffrey met his 10th victim, Curtis Strotter. I'm not sure how you pronounce the name, Mr. Wilson. Who was 18. He met him in Wisconsin and propositioned him. This victim wanted to perform anal sex on Jeffrey, and Jeffrey did not want him to. Jeffrey drugged him, cuffed him, and then strangled him. He posed him for pictures. He kept the head, genitals, hands, and acidified the flesh.
What did he mean by he posed him for pictures?
Jeffrey had pictures in his apartment of men in different poses, and he would take his victims, some of them, and put them on the table that was part of his temple and try to imitate the poses of the men who were in the pictures.
And did you see those pictures of his apartment showing those men that were on the wall of the apartment?
Yes, I did.
And were the poses of the victims that he put on the black table, were they like the poses of the people in the pictures that were on his wall?
Yes, they were.
But the pictures of the people that were on his wall were not pictures of dead people. They were like posters.
That's correct.
Okay, so he placed the dead victims in the same pose and took pictures of them.
That's correct.
Continue on, please. You say he posed him for pictures, he kept the head.
He preserved the hands, genitals, and skull in formaldehyde. He masturbated a couple of times after he strangled him. He reported that he began watching Exorcist 3 at this time, and he stopped watching Return of the Jedi. He reported that the character in Exorcist 3 appealed to him, that character being Satan. Satan exuded, these were Jeffrey's words, Satan exuded control and power. Jeffrey reported that he felt corrupt and evil and identified with the character. He said that he would watch this movie before he went to the bar and when he brought people back to his apartment.
Have you seen those two movies?
Jeffrey suggested that I watch the movies, and I have subsequently seen those two movies and have also asked Jeffrey what particular parts of the movies was it that he identified with, and then I have re-seen those parts of the movies.
So you understand the parts that he was talking about?
Yes, I do.
At least he was interested in.
Yes, I do.
Continue, please.
1 or 2 months later, he met his 11th victim, Earl Lindsay. He reported that Lindsay was not gay.
Wait, Joanna, sorry.
The only reason I interrupt is I noticed what I think is a typo. The name is Errol Lindsay.
I'm sorry. And it's quite possible, Ms. White, that I may have misheard Jeffrey. I'm not sure. Okay,
That's
thanks.
the only reason I wanted to correct it.
It's Errol.
Errol.
He reported that Lindsay was not gay. He met him during the day on a street corner. He offered him money and brought him back to his house to watch Exorcist 3. I questioned Jeffrey about the body parts that he had stored in the freezer. He reported that periodically he would take portions out of the freezer and cook them. While he ate, he would become aroused. He never gave any of the victims' body parts to eat. That might be a bit confusing there. What I asked Jeffrey is when he brought other people over to his house, did he ever offer them any of the body parts of, cooked body parts of people? Regarding Errol Lindsay, he reported that he did not have sex with him before he drugged him. He then drugged him and his victim fell asleep. The behavior again escalated at this point. Jeffrey noted that he was sick of doing what he was doing and wanted to render his victims zombies. He had a handheld drill and bored a hole in the skull to the brain. He used a large syringe and filled it with acid, which he injected into the frontal lobes so that his victim would still be able to follow commands. He reported that his victim woke up after the first injection, stated that he was groggy and had a headache. He then gave him more sleeping pills. He then strangled this victim, posed him, took pictures, laid with the victim, and masturbated. He acidified the flesh and skeleton, but kept the skull. Jeffrey reported that he had used a paring knife because he tried to preserve the skin, but this did not work.
Doctor, let me stop you at this point. Was there any chance in the world that Jeffrey Dahmer, in trying to zombieize these poor folks, was going to ever be able to accomplish that? And that home drilling, the way he was trying to do it?
Objection. She's not a medical doctor.
Justine, I think that It's outside her area of expertise.
Okay. You ever worked in a hospital, doctor?
Yes.
Have you done any training in a hospital? Oh, go ahead, forget it. Continue on.
2 months later, he met his 12th victim, Tony Hughes, who he reported was a deaf-mute in his mid-20s. Tony was black. Friends of Tony's drove him to Jeffrey's apartment. They kissed, watched videos, and he gave him drugs. He did not remember drilling holes in Tony, but he stated that he must have, because Tony was dead when Jeffrey awakened. He had sex with him and laid with him. Jeffrey laid his body on the corner of his bedroom floor. At age 31, when Jeffrey was 31, he met his 13th victim, Conarax,
Sent us some phone. Go ahead.
a 15-year-old male. He reported that he went to a mall at 5 in the evening and that in the eating area, and was in the eating area of the mall. He was about to go home when he saw a Eurasian man walking into the mall. He propositioned him and offered him $50 to allow him to take pictures.
I don't want you to read the next sentence because
Okay.
right now that would be that's an identifier, and we're not identifying that next sentence.
Okay.
So
He gave him
It'd be hard to be reading this and all of a sudden you get up on that word and you're like, oh fuck.
a drink, drilled holes in his skull, and filled it with acid. At one point in the morning, his victim was still sleeping, and Jeffrey went out to a bar for a beer. As he was leaving the bar, he saw his victim sitting at the side of the road. He was naked, and 2 females were around him. The police came, as did a fire truck. The police got out and asked what was going on. Jeffrey told him that this was a friend of his who was drunk. The police believed him, wrapped him in a blanket, and walked the victim back to his apartment. The police entered the apartment. Jeffrey stated that there was a body in his apartment in the bedroom.
But
He
he's
didn't
telling
state that
you,
to
he
the
didn't tell the
police.
police that,
That's
obviously.
correct.
Go ahead.
However, the police never entered or looked in the bedroom. The police laid this victim on the sofa. The police saw 2 photos that Jeffrey had taken of the victim, and one officer held up a photo as if to say, and these are Jeffrey's words, "See, he's telling the truth." Jeffrey gave this victim 1 more injection, and that was fatal. He then posed the victim, took pictures, had anal sex with him, and masturbated. He acidified the flesh and the skeleton, defleshed and saved the skull. The compulsion was so strong that the police being there did not make any difference, and he continued in his behavior. Shortly after this, he met his 14th victim, Matt Turner, a 20-year-old black male. Jeffrey had attended the Chicago Gay Pride Parade and met this victim at a bus station. He offered
Yeah, that's true, Mexi. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the Netflix show is kind of bullshit, but
him money, took him home to watch Exorcist 3, had light sex, drugged him, and strangled him. He defleshed and acidified the body, saved the skeleton in the freezer, and put the head in the freezer. He threw the other body parts into the trash. Jeffrey noted that around this time, the body meat in his freezer was getting old, and he disposed of it. 1 or 2 weeks later, he met his 15th victim, Jeremiah Weinberger, age 25, who was of Jewish Puerto Rican descent. He met him at a bar in Chicago. He approached his victim, offered him money. The victim performed oral sex on Jeffrey. They took the bus back to his home. They kissed, engaged in masturbation, watched a video, and Jeffrey then gave him a drink. Once he was unconscious, he drilled a hole in his head and used boiling water. He reported that this victim woke up and was functioning but was groggy. Jeffrey then gave him more pills and another injection. He reported that the victim went into a coma, and the next morning he was still in a coma, and Jeffrey tried to wake him up. Jeffrey went to work, and when he returned home, he found that the victim was dead. He stated that he felt bad because he wanted the victim to be coherent and to carry on a conversation with him. Jeffrey stated that he engaged in the drilling technique to avoid having to strangle and kill his victims. I asked Jeffrey how things were going at work at this period of time, and he told me that he had been missing days at work because of his victims. He said he was at a point where he could have been fired. 1 or 2 weeks later, he met his 16th victim, Oliver Lacey. He reported that Oliver was black and was a bodybuilder. He offered him money, they had light sex, they watched a video, and Jeffrey drugged him. He reported that he then called into work sick, and he was then fired. He had kept the headless body of his 15th victim in his bathtub. According to Jeffrey, Oliver never saw that body. Jeffrey reported that he did not use drilling on this victim. He drugged him, strangled him, performed anal sex before and after death, posed him, and took pictures. He also defleshed his 15th victim at this time and saved the head. He was going to use Oliver Lacey in his temple area. At this point, he had lost his job, was drinking heavily, and running out of money. 1 week after he had strangled Oliver Lacey, he bought a 57-gallon drum to acidify all of the skeletons that he was going to keep. He then met his 17th victim, Joseph Bredehoft, who he stated was Caucasian. They had drinks together. He offered him money. He drugged him and strangled him. Jeffrey reported that, quote, not much sex occurred, end quote. He defleshed him, put the skeleton and head in the freezer, put his clothes in the trash after he cut them up, and did not take any pictures because he was out of film. After this victim, there was another one whose name he could not recall. He had put cuffs on this victim, and the victim ran out of his apartment. Jeffrey reported that during this time he had been drinking 150 proof rum. He indicated that 3 police officers came, went to get the key for the handcuffs, and saw pictures that Jeffrey had taken of his victims. He was then arrested. He reported that he was very frightened when he was arrested. He stated that he did not immediately have a sense of relief, but this occurred several days later when he knew that his behavior had come to an end. I asked him whether consciously he had wanted to be apprehended, and he said no. Jeffrey stated that in looking back, he realized how horrible his acts were, the impact that all of this must be having on his victims' families. He reported that he had depersonalized his victims and never asked any questions about their lives. He reported that he had been consumed by desire and would not have been able to do it if he had known these people on a personal basis. They became objects to him. I questioned him about his sexual fantasies and urges since his arrest. He reported that they are not as strong as they had been pre-arrest, and that he has no desire to commit violence. He tries to keep sexual thoughts out of his mind. He reported that it is quite possible that the compulsion would return if he was not in a structured environment, and stated, quote, it would be nice to get rid of it completely, end quote. He reported that he had killed a total of 17 people, and that once apprehended, he wanted to, quote, tell all, end quote. I asked if there were people that he had not killed, and he said that there were 3. He did not murder these people because either he was not attracted to them or he did not have pills to drug them with. I asked him if throughout the course of his life he has ever had a relationship that had any degree of depth. He disclosed there has been no person since his childhood friend, initial D, in terms of the depth of feelings in a relationship. In terms of relationships, Jeffrey reported that he, quote, fell into a mode that didn't deviate, end quote. He said this was a mode of meeting people and not having any degree of social intimacy or contact with them. When asked about why he did not develop a relationship with another person, he told me that all of the people he met gave time frames, that is, where they had to be at a certain time, that they had to go home, that they had to be with someone else. He did not feel that he could leave any of these people in his apartment, and that he wanted contact with people. Now, if I may comment there, Mr. Boyle, because it's the reason that he didn't want to bring anybody back to his apartment and have a relationship, because he didn't know what he would do in terms, he was interested in putting people out and having sex with them. He didn't know what he'd do with body parts that he stored in his apartment or how he would continue this. By drugging the people and then killing them, he would have people who would remain and stay with him. In regard to his alcohol abuse, he reported that during college, while in the Army and after the Army, he was dependent upon and abused alcohol. He indicated that he would drink 1 case of beer every weekend. I asked him if he passed out, and he stated rarely. He did recall, however, that when he was on work release, he was given a pass at Thanksgiving and he did not want to go home, so he went to the mall, which he discovered was closed. He then went to a bar and drank beer and a whiskey called Yukon Jack. He drank 1 bottle. He then went to a gay bar and went home with some man he met there. He blacked out at this person's apartment, and when he awakened, he was hog-tied. He had bruises on his leg, and the man was doing something with a candle in Jeffrey's rectum. When he came to, he yelled. Jeffrey reported that his leg was beaten raw, but he did not have any anal damage. Jeffrey reported that during this time period of luring people to his apartment and then killing them, he felt emotionally dead. I asked him about his health. He reported that he does not get any exercise in prison, and that, do you still want me to go on with this?
Yes, please.
And that he is taking a medication, he didn't know the name of it, but described it as a little purple pill to relieve body itching. He reported that he sleeps okay, except for a fellow inmate who screams during the night and wakes him up. I asked him if he has any dreams about his victims, and he reports that he does not. He then did recall one dream in which there was a modern building and all young people in their 20s lived there. There were males as well as females, and they were dressed in leather, and they were on the floor eating something. He stated that he walked into a room, and on the walls that should be pastel colors, like being projected. He reported that the floor was misty and there was a guy there walking toward him, but the man never got close to him. He reported that he woke up. He indicated that in the dream he did not recall feeling attracted to this person. Jeffrey, again, I asked him about whether he knew if what he was doing was right or wrong. He knew that the behavior he had been engaging in was wrong. He indicated, however, that, quote, after the ambassador incident, I was not able to control the behavior, end quote.
Learned something here on Murder Church. Wow. Crematories remove skeletal remains and pulverize them, and that's what's returned as ashes. Holy shit, Brooklyn.
Further sexual history. He reported that at the bathhouse he got erections.
Trigger warning, absolutely. Murder Church is very intense, and it's not really visual. It's dialogue here. We're all adults. This is a very adult-themed show and channel. I'd imagine there's not any children on here, hopefully. So, but still, everyone needs needs the trigger warning, regardless. Yeah, the whole church is a trigger warning. The whole church is a trigger warning. I like that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you all for hanging out. So we take this small little break. Hit the like, helps us out here. Appreciate everyone in the back pew, everyone lurking. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's not chatting. We love the lurkers as well, as Jay likes to say. And yeah, everyone, appreciate it. Share this out to your communities after the fact. Let people know what you're watching. Also put a poll up here. We'll see what I put. Do you think Jeffrey Dahmer was born this way? Pretty direct question. After 32 votes, yes, 62%, no, 38%. And that's interesting. Some interesting stats there. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Mandy, that is absolutely correct. Trigger warning, Jeffrey Dahmer. Enough said, right? Yeah, so far it has been wild, and we're on week 6 of Murder Church as we can continue to roll and continue to grow, continue to pick up people along the way.
Approximately 10% of the time, but was never able to ejaculate. Once his partners were drugged, however, he got erections 100% of the time, and he was able to ejaculate. At his apartment, he got erections 10% of the time when his victims were awake. Once drugged, he got erections 100% of the time. He reported that the sexual acts were more erotic once his victim was dead. During the course of all of these events, he masturbated 2 times a day. His fantasies were a person being comatose approximately 75% of the time. The remainder of his fantasies involved his victim being dead and having sex with him. I asked Jeffrey again why he killed his victims. He reported that he did not just drug them and have sex with them and let them leave because he wanted to keep them. He wanted them to stay with him. I asked him if he had ever been arrested for other types of behavior. He reported that he had been arrested for drunken disorderly conduct, exhibitionism, taking pictures of a minor, and for his present crimes. He also had been arrested for shoplifting a leather coat, and he indicated that he did steal a mannequin. Jeffrey reported that he never learned how to develop close relationships, and most of his activities were solitary. He responded, quote, my emotions were deadened from Hicks on, end quote. I asked him about his therapeutic contacts with Dr. Rosen, who he saw after he was arrested for exhibitionism. He informed me that 3/4 of the way into therapy, the incident occurred at the Ambassador Hotel. He reported that therapy was expensive and he had to take the bus 10 miles to get there. He stated that he was resentful towards the therapist and that he did not feel that it would make much difference. He found therapy was not helpful and then stated, quote,
Oh shit. Lakota coming through with the $4.99 collection plate, passing the church plate to the next person, to this person sitting next to me. Amen. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Here. Boom. I'm gonna give you a couple of beers in chat for that as well. Passing them out. Thank you very much, Lakota.
but it was my fault, not hers, end quote. Jeffrey reiterated that he never blamed anyone for his actions and that he accepts responsibility. He said, quote, the truth has a way of coming out, end quote. He said that talking with the detectives was a purging for him. He saw it as a confession. He claimed that he believes in a life after death and wants to get what he has done out in the open. I questioned him further about his interest in the satanic. He disclosed that he could not control his impulses and gradually surrendered to...
I'm going to repeat that real quick as well, Angel. The public needs to know there are monsters out there. Trust your gut instincts. Trust yourself. Don't let others' opinions distract you from self-preservation. And that is 100% the truth, guys. I'm a pretty cautious person in real life. I'm not going to lie, man. My head is pretty much always on a swivel. Just, people are crazy. You never know. Like, I'm an insanely nice guy, but you never freaking know. So yeah, that is very good advice, Angel. Thank you very much. I wanted to put that out there. Oh shit. See some beers popping through, as well as CR coming through with the super sticker, the 99-cent super sticker. Thank you very much, CR. CR always coming through, and she's been here for a while now also. And you see the membership little dude next to her, the not corn but a beer walking. Give me the loot. Love it. And then aspiring court reporter coming through also with $4.99. I accept. Pass it along. Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. You got so much. That's amazing.
To them. He then felt evil and began reading the Satanic Bible and watching Exorcist 3. Prior to this, he had watched Return of the Jedi and began wearing the yellow contacts to be like an emperor. He felt that given...
Actually, corn would make sense for it to be corn now, Kaylin. Actually,
what he was doing, he was like Satan himself. I asked Jeffrey whether or not there was a family history of criminal behavior. He reported there was not, except that his brother David broke a window at a railroad station at age 12. He stated that presently his brother does computer work at a company. Jeffrey stated that while in Milwaukee, he felt closest to his grandmother. She was always kind to him, and she was a perfect grandmother, and, quote, you couldn't ask for anyone nicer, end quote. He also revealed that he despises the attention that this case is getting. He stated, quote, I was always a private person, end quote. I asked him if he had ever read cases about serial...
Shit, Arth Viv coming through with the $4.99. Thank you very much. Also passing the collection plate. Damn, you guys are too kind. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. Love it. Thank you, Viv. And yeah, anybody that is not following Art with Viv, do it now. Not only on YouTube, but also on Twitter. She's amazing. Thank you very much. That's crazy. And also right underneath, Joanne, brand new member here, coming through with $2. Pass the Dutchie on the left. Wow. I'm going to put one of those in the chat here for you. Thank you very much. Love it. Love it. Definitely a 420 friendly channel here, guys. That's amazing. You guys are crazy. That's absolutely awesome. And yes, Kaylin J incidentally did stream some hardcore corn by mistake here recently. Yeah, accidentally. He kept scrolling. Oh, man, Kelsey, right underneath, $5 as well. Pass it to the next, man. You guys are crazy. Come on now.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing,
but it works.
And I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
It actually worked perfect. Love it, man. You guys are crazy. Let's crack a few open here. Oh yeah. Thank you guys so much. That's amazing. Wow. I honestly don't know what to say. That's crazy. I like it. Murder Church. Murder Church, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Shannon, seriously, Publicly Buzzed, you deserve it. You're making my Sunday mornings better. Now, thank you, man. That's awesome. We're all in this together. We're all waking up together, folks. Thank you. You're making me way too happy right now. It's craziness. Getting Sunday going. Seriously, man, he's right. You guys are absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Serial killers, and he told me that he had not. He said further that he had no fascination and never read any crime magazines or any type of material along this line. I questioned him about how he felt now, and he presented me with a passage from his Bible, and it's Romans 7:14, and I quote, "For what I want to do, I don't do, but what I hate, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good." And
man. Groot coming through. Pass it on. That's what I like to see, Groot. Hell yeah, man. Throwing it out there. And right underneath. G Mama B. I hope I'm saying that right. $4.99. Pass it to the next. Also, yeah, thank you coming out here. Putting it in the chat. Wow, thank you very much. Murder Church rocking and rolling this morning. What is happening right now? I'm going to give you all some extra bells. Extra bells out here. Holy shit. You guys are crazy. Thank you all so much. Wow. I don't know. I mean, wow. I'm pretty blown away. So you all are absolutely awesome. That's craziness. Wow. Murder Church, baby. Murder Church. Let's go.
quote,
What did that mean to you?
that that on some level he didn't want to be killing the people he was killing and having sex with them after death, and that he hated doing.
Wow. Oh man. Every time I get started here, Tangled Crochet, $5 challenge accepted. Pass it around. Wow. Man. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Thank y'all so much. Extra bells. That's right. Getting extra bells this morning. I'll throw them out again. I do like the bells. I'm glad that Viv likes them as well. The collection plate is full. The collection plate is overfilling right now. I don't even know what to say, guys. Wow. Crazy. Yeah, load up that chat with some more beers. Get the beers flowing in there. Boom. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much. All right, I'm going to push play. That's true. Yeah, the AC's bringing it through. And yeah, 10:49 a.m. I'm just waiting for that. I was looking at the weather today, and it's supposed to start nipping and tipping about noon. So at least we got started early here today. Yeah, thank y'all so much, everybody. Getting the mods, hanging out, everybody. Kaylin retweeting, everybody coming through. Jay retweeting, everybody comes through. This family, J Buzz Nation, continues to grow. Seriously, blows me away, man. Dan tweeted it last night, man. This community has, we neither of us know truly what to say. Like, we're coming out of the true crime community, but truly and honestly, what's grown with Jay, honestly, as the Bows, right? The J-Bo Nation, and honestly, him putting us over, man, here at Publicly Buzzed, I don't even know what to say half the time. Like, it's crazy. And, yeah, there's a subsection in this true crime community now that is all of you guys that come through every single time and show so much actual support, man. It's crazy. Like, yeah, I truly don't even know what to say half the time. It's amazing. It's making what we're trying to do here worth it. It feels like it's actually happening because you guys flow through, you make it. I'm going to stop. It's amazing. It's awesome. Extra bells. Extra bells.
Doing that, but he couldn't do other than that, and he agrees in essence with the laws that people should not be allowed to do that.
Go ahead.
I asked Jeffrey what he thought would happen in the future. He said he wanted to have a situation where he could have peace and quiet, where he could read, write, listen to a radio.
All right, Dana, I think you was waiting for me to hit play. Coming through with the $5, adding to the collection plate. Thank you very much. Wow. I was gonna, I'm gonna get rid of the ODB when I'm just gonna do the Big E one. No, you guys get both. You get both, and you get triples and extra bells. That's right, aspiring court reporter. That's the truth. Authenticity. That is what pours through the screen. That's what bleeds through the screen. 100% with Jay and Shannon, man. Amazing people. Wow. Wow, seriously. Yep, raise your hand if you came from the Jabo Nation. Yes, look at these hands. Oh, man, yes. Oh, my God. Jay isn't even here right now to see this. Jay's going to have to go back and check this out. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much, man. This is crazy. Dan isn't here either to see this. I was trying to entice Dan last night. I was like, man, you have to get in here this morning. Oh, man, this is awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Whew. You do. Everyone's got a seat on this train. Wow. Wow. All right, guys. Wow. Yes. The hands are pouring through. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. You guys are crazy. Yeah, I'm going to tell Dan he has to go back and rewatch this one, man. This is awesome. Denise. Everybody, yes, man. It's awesome, dude. That's so cool. And the support, man. No, I'm going to be real again for a second here. We've worked, I mean, we'll continue to work with tons of people here in this community, I'm sure, but like, no one else, like, every time I work with anybody, dude, we put them over so hard. That's all we do, man. And Jay's the first person that we found that goes as hard for somebody that he likes as we do. Like, he is out there every single time. Hey, give them a follow, man. Like, amazing. Like, I love the energy between both of Jay's channel and this channel. Like, when the powers come together, right? The mega powers. Once the handshake happens, the earth will shake. Wow. Yeah, Jay is absolutely the best. Jay is absolutely the best. And anybody hanging out randomly here that is not subscribed to Jay, I'll put that in the chat right now. Also, Mandy, yeah, if you got his socials, throw Jay out here for sure. The absolute best. I know he's having some Twitter issues right now. Boom. I think everybody's having some Twitter issues right now. I know Kaylin is as well. This is amazing, y'all. Y'all are the best. Yeah, we talk about it all the time privately. I tell it to Jay. Like, you know, he is the best dude we have found on the interwebs, okay? A lot of cool cats, you know, but man, like, first person you feel like that's like actually potentially the word family. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's I don't know. Chemistry. That's the word I'm freaking looking for. Tangled crochet. That's the word I'm looking for. Chemistry is exactly what we have found. And you look for that. You look for that in your entire life, right? In your you know, your soulmate, in your people, in your friends. And in this case, the community that we're building, right? And again, family, like, man, nah. This is wild. Yeah, right there. Socials being dropped by Mandy. Link tree for Jay. Thank y'all so much. There, CR found on a feed. And CR's an old school. She's been around for sure. Follow the favorite corn star. Jay right there. That's it right there. Jay is super relatable. Regular dude, right? Regular dude, man. Oh, yeah. Defense Diaries right there, please. And hopefully this week we're going to be having an awesome show. Hopefully Bob will be on here. I'm still making that work behind the scenes. It's Feral Friday. I'm hoping to have an Idaho show and have Bob and Sleuthy on together. And Dan, and have a mega show. Exactly. Right there, Shannon. It's fun when you find your tribe. You guys are amazing. Yep, I've said this before, Steve. Birds of a feather flock together. Couldn't said it better myself. Couldn't said it better myself. That's amazing. Seriously, wow. Love the Love Fest, guys. Amazing. All right, here, Joanne found us through Drunk Turkey. Drunk Turkey show. Yeah, and Daniel as well. Worked with Daniel, the Drunk Turkey guys. I'm sure I'll work with them in the future as well. Great dudes as well, Joanne. Yeah, Bob will go now. Absolutely. Regular dude, fantastic hair.
He stated that that was the best he could hope for. He also stated at this point that it was painful to think about the victims' family members and what they are going through, and that in the future he wanted to write a letter of apology to the victims' family members. In further discussing the situation in prison, he reported that he has not received any mental health therapy, He served 3 meals a day. He reported that last Sunday he became angry because they took his pen away from him. I asked him what his parents are presently doing. He said that his mother is a mental health worker and is living in California. He stated she's in her mid-50s. His father works in another city and lives with his wife. Because Jeffrey was so interested in physiques, I questioned him about whether or not he had ever worked out. He said that he worked out on and off at home, but he never really stuck to it. He did for a while have a membership to a health club. I questioned him about why he had purchased the Griffins. He indicated that they are representative of evil. He stated again that after the ambassador incident, things really went, quote, full-fledged wrong, end quote. I asked him about whether he had any auditory or visual hallucinations. He reported that he did not. When I asked him if he had done much traveling during his lifetime, he reported that other than being stationed in Germany and traveling to Munich, living in Miami, and going to New Mexico as a Boy Scout, he had done no other traveling. After he was arrested the second time, he reported that he moved out of the 24th Street apartment and met a black man and brought him back to his...
Wow. Lisa coming through, passing it on again. $7.99. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Getting some ODB, getting some classic hip hop artists out here, huh? Some ODB and some Biggie. I'm gonna have to find a few other sound bites that work for that as well. Thank you so much, Lisa. Appreciate that. Looking through the chat here just for a second. Maybe. I would like to get some of these folks on Murder Church. I'm just want to Shannon there. I want to make sure when I reach out, I want the email to sound as professional as possible. Sometimes I feel like reaching out from, and I can word it professionally, but reaching out from the name that it's coming from, PubliclyBuzzed, might deter him in some kind of fashion or way. So I want it to not look like, in any kind of way that it's a joke or something, quite frankly. And he's an older gentleman. I think he's 81 years old, and I wouldn't want him to think that that I'm in any way disrespecting him. But yeah, I'm going to put together a professional email and put that in the Discord or something and get that checked by you guys, right? See what you guys think. Is this proper enough to send to Dr. Berlin? Would you like to come on the show, sir?
Apartment, even though he no longer lived there. The apartment had been rented. He then went to the basement with the man. He reported that the guy knocked him out, kicked him, took his money, $300. When he recovered, he was taken to the hospital, kept overnight, and his head injury was sutured. I asked him whether or not he was able to cry and when was the last time he cried. He reported that the last time he cried was when he was in college following his first victim. He stated that he was feeling bad about having killed the person, was drinking out of control, and cried. He reported that he is, quote, surprised, end quote, that he, quote, did that, end quote, to 17 people. He stated that it feels like a twilight state. He then stated that he wished he could die, that his heart would stop beating. During this interview, Jeffrey drew a picture of the temple that he had planned to build. It consisted of a table, and in front of the table was a black chair. On either side of the table were reconstructed skeletons that were to be painted. On the table there were to be incense on both ends and 10 painted skeletons. There was to be a wall plaque, a blue curtain, and a lamp with blue globe lights. Mr. Dahmer is a blonde-haired, hazel-eyed, 6 foot, 175-pound, single Caucasian male. He was escorted to the interview by guards. He was wearing prison garb. His behavior could be described as being cooperative throughout the interview. Through most of the interview, he drank coffee, smoked, and during each session, he ate a bag of M&Ms. He was oriented to time, place, and person. He knew the month, did not know the date. He was off by 2 days, and he knew the current year. There was no evidence of hallucinations or delusions or psychotic thought processes. His memory appeared intact. He did not have difficulty concentrating. His affect was appropriate given the situation. In discussing his victims, he reported the events in a rather rote, matter-of-fact manner. It was only towards the end of the second interview, when Jeffrey was reflecting on what he had done, that he appeared to evidence remorse about his behaviors.
Now, that completed your formal report.
This was not my report. This were my notes on my interviews.
Let me have the yellow picture there. He turned over a copy of the console. I would ask it to just be marked as an exhibit. Doctor, you have told us about a diagram that Jeffrey Dahmer drew for you. The defendant's exhibit number 31 for identification. And I ask you if this is the diagram that Jeffrey Dahmer drew for you concerning this temple that he was going to create in his apartment with the body parts in the way in which you had mentioned.
Yes.
Was that drawn in your presence?
Yes, it was.
And who drew it?
Jeffrey did.
Did you have him initial it?
Jeffrey did not initial it. I put the date and that it was his drawing, and I put down these were reconstructed skeletons.
Now, was this important in your psychological evaluation of Mr. Dahmer to have some idea what he was talking about in order for you to understand what he was doing?
Well, Jeffrey offered to draw that, but it was helpful in terms of getting a sense of what he was going to be doing with the skeletons and skulls that he was saving.
I move that defendant's exhibit number 31 be received in evidence as exhibit 31.
Received.
I would then ask the court and tell the court that I have made 14 copies of this for the jury to see, and I ask that it be published. Any objection?
Your Honor, I have no objection if it's published, but I don't think everyone should keep one since we've got one in evidence.
Oh, I don't mean it that way. I just mean so when she's describing it, they'll not have it.
That's fine.
Okay. During the time that the witness testifies concerning the exhibit.
Concerning that exhibit, that's no problem.
Doctor, while these are being passed out, Judge, may I, you've got it, would you, this will be fine, you can do it while the judge is looking at this. The jury is getting a copy of the exhibit, and when they seem to be...
Your Honor, I can't hear counsel at all.
I'm sorry. The jury is getting copies of the exhibit, and when they have them completed, you're satisfied they have them. Would you explain to them what your understanding was? I don't want to ask any questions about it. Just explain how you understood him to explain what he was going to do there.
Well, as you can see on the bottom, and Jeffrey labeled this, there was going to be a black chair. He had already purchased the black table. He had been saving skulls from his victims and had been spray painting them. They were to be on top of the table, and he would be burning incense. He had been saving the skeletons and was going to reconstruct them and then to paint them. In the back, he was to have a curtain. There were to be these lights and these wall plaques. Jeffrey believed that by constructing this temple, that he would be receiving special energies and powers that would help him in a number of areas of his life.
Where did you understand this temple?
Wow. CR, what are you doing? $2, again, passing the plate around. Absolutely amazing. Wow. I'm going to give you one of these right here.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
I'm telling you like it is, baby. Thank you, CR. You're absolutely amazing.
Was going to be in his apartment.
You know, I don't think I don't think...
Laura, $3 super sticker coming through with the thumb. Thank you so much. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. Yes. Yes. You guys are nuts. You guys are amazing.
I asked him that.
Were you ever over at his apartment?
Yes, I was.
Give the jury a general idea of the kind of apartment it was.
Well, it's interesting, Mr. Boyle, when you read police evidence and descriptions of a place, in my mind, I thought it was much larger than it was. It is a very, very tiny apartment.
That should give us a sufficient description. Who was going to sit into the black chair?
Jeffrey.
And if you look at this table, did he do that in your presence, by the way? Or did he bring that to you, this diagram?
No, he asked for a piece of paper and borrowed a pencil or pen and drew it.
How many painted skulls does he show on this black table?
On the table there are 10.
I think you can pick one. When he was sitting in the black chair, did you ask him what kind of power he was going to be getting from whatever he was looking at?
Well, I think I had mentioned earlier that he was going to be getting some kind of power that would be helping him financially and socially.
Okay. Now, I'm going to have to ask you some very difficult questions, and that is, did you ask Jeffrey Dahmer questions relative to, by the way, did you see the pictures, the hundreds and hundreds of pictures that were in the possession of the Milwaukee Police Department, of which we got copies?
Your assistant showed me many pictures that I viewed before interviewing Jeffrey.
You're satisfied that you've seen enough?
I don't care to see any more.
Yes. Was he 100% honest with you as far as you're concerned as a clinician interviewing somebody with the kind of history that Mr. Dahmer has?
Object to the form of the question. 100% honest with you.
All right. I didn't mean 100%. Let me ask you this. Let me rephrase it. Excuse me. Let me rephrase it. That was very clumsy of me. I'm sorry. When you are interviewing someone, what must you, as an expert in the field of clinical psychology, conclude on the question of the honesty of the interviewee?
Well, I mean, one, you want to know if the person's reliable. Basically, do they tell the same story the next time you meet with them? And two, is what they're saying accurate based on other information or data that you have available to you?
And as it related to Jeffrey Dahmer, how did you find him?
Well, in general, I found that there was consistency and also congruency in terms of what he reported in general and what I read in the confession that he gave. However, there were some areas of inconsistency. Also, with all the years of experience that I have had in interviewing people who have paraphilias, I know that for the most part, you never get the whole story the first time, sometimes not the second time, and sometimes you need to know them for many months before you get the whole story, and sometimes you never get the whole story.
Did you ask Mr. Dahmer whether or not he wanted to have sex with live or dead men?
Yes, I did.
And what did he respond?
What he told me was that most of his arousal, what he was attracted to, was being sexual with a person when they were not conscious.
And did you ask him to define what consciousness meant?
When they were not in a waking state.
Okay. Did you ask him what most sexually attracted him or aroused him?
Yes, he was most attracted to young men with beautiful bodies and nice physiques.
Dahmer had a type. He definitely had a type.
So much so to the point that it's my understanding that he helped identify one or two of his victims. He was so focused on physique that he knew one kidney was missing, and he knew there were some scars under the nipples of one of the people.
Did you come to a belief, an opinion, to a reasonable degree of psychological certainty in talking to Mr. Dahmer as to whether or not he was or was not interested in consensual sex?
Well, I came to the opinion that he was interested in sex with people when they were unconscious, and that you cannot give consent to sex when you're unconscious.
There is a distinction between being unconscious and dead.
Yes.
Relative to that, what was your opinion as to what Jeffrey Dahmer wanted to do or not to do?
Well, what Jeffrey, there are 2 points to this, okay? One is what Jeffrey told me. And Jeffrey told me 75% of his attraction was to men when they were not conscious. 25% were when they were dead. That's what he said.
Breaking it down to that level of percentage is nuts.
Look, however, at what he did. What he did was he had sex with them once they were dead.
Okay. Now, in that regard, as tough a question as this to ask you, and as tough as the answer is going to be. Did you go into any detail with Jeffrey Dahmer as to whether or not he did or did not have sex with every one of his victims, how often he had sex, and the type of sex that he had?
I did.
And what did you find?
Well, I think as I mentioned previously, Mr. Boyle, I found in interviewing Jeffrey that in some sense it was not difficult for him to describe what he did with the bodies in terms of getting to the skeleton part. What I felt was difficult was for him to be very graphic in the description of the sexual activity he engaged in with the people after they were dead. So, and knowing that people have difficulty with this, I asked him more detailed questions upon my return here. And it was as I had suspected, in that he did have sex with, and I apologize again for the graphic nature of this, he did have sex with every one of the 17 victims. With, I believe it was 14 of his victims, he cut every single one of his victims open in the abdomen. With 14 of his victims, he placed his penis inside the viscera, inside the cavity of the body, and he got an erection and ejaculated inside the bodies of these people. With, I believe it was 5 or 6 of the people, the skulls and the heads that he kept, he placed his penis inside of the mouth of the decapitated person, and he got erections and he ejaculated. And it was with 5 or 6 of the people after death that he engaged in anal sex with them. You see, Jeffrey talked about masturbating in front of or over the bodies, and I felt that there was more to it than that, but he had a discomfort in talking about it.
Doctor, I'm going to show you the exhibit that is now called Defendant's Exhibit 27. That's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. I'm going to ask you to look at the subcommittees under sexual disorders on paraphilias, and I'm going to ask you to tell us whether or not the name of Judith Becker, PhD, appears there.
Yes, it does.
You were one of how many people on that committee?
9.
What was Mr. Dahmer's paraphilia?
Well, I gave him the diagnosis of necrophilia. Mr. Boyle, we don't, or at least I have not been able to find in the literature a diagnosis to cover, and I think necrophilia should be, this should be an extension of necrophilia, and I will propose it to the people who work on these. I could not find a paraphilia describing somebody having sex with an individual who is comatose, but a word for it, something philia. But I think that we can conceive that as a natural extension because the person is in a state that is not a lifelike state. When you're out in a coma or like a zombie, it's like you're dead. I mean, your heart's beating and you're breathing, but basically it's like you're dead.
Wow. Insanely graphic description of, yeah, exactly what Jeffrey Dahmer would do after the fact here to pleasure himself. Jesus Christ. Under review, new member here under review. Thank you for coming through. $4.99. There's good bread and good meat. So good gosh, don't eat, people. Happy Murder Church, everyone. Love it. Thank you so much. Bad man. Boom. Love it very much. Also, pass out some beers, pass out some coffee, pass out some of them drinks. Hell yeah. Appreciate it. I'm going to pass out a Bob Mata too. Bob for you for that under review. Thank you so much. As we are winding down, we got about 6 minutes left of this video. I'm probably going to call it quits as we approach noon. Again, anybody that's just popping in that didn't hear me earlier, I'm running on no AC today, unfortunately. We got to figure that out. So it's going to get hot. It's going to get super hot very shortly in this little room that I'm in with a light on me. So yeah, short Murder Church, but I still want to come through, hang out. Still good, get a good session in here. And everybody that came through today, holy shit. Everybody that filled the plate, what are y'all even doing? You guys are crazy. All new members, holy shit. Thank you all so much. This is nuts. And I see the beers coming through the chat right now. This is unbelievable. Thank you guys so much. Keep her going, baby. Keep her going. Thank you all.
Also, and again, his attraction to putting his penis inside the body. There's a term called partialism. People attracted to not the whole body necessarily, but to parts of it. And I see that as being a part of this too.
Partialism is a paraphilia,
Yes,
and it's arousal as to a part of a body rather than the body
a
as
body part, yeah.
What's an example of that, other
Well,
than what we're talking about here?
There are some individuals who are sexually attracted to stumps. That is, they search out people who are amputees because they find the stump erotic. That's an example.
And Jeffrey Dahmer had some of that partialism problem also?
Yes, he was not attracted to stumps, but the head and into the body.
Now, Doctor, I don't want to be repetitious, and I think I'm about finished with my examination. You have testified, I believe, that to the legal standard, but once again, your findings that you have made earlier as to Jeffrey Dahmer's mental disease at the time of the commission of the offense was that he was suffering from mental disease.
That's correct.
And it is, as you have told us, necrophilia,
That's correct.
which is part of the paraphilia family.
That's correct.
Are all necrophiliacs mentally ill or diseased? I'm sorry. Do all people have necrophilia and suffering from a mental disease?
No.
As Mr. Dahmer was going along these killing sprees, what was happening to his concept of capacity to conform and the lack thereof?
It was eroding. As a matter of fact, and again, this was not in my notes, Jeffrey said to me after he lost his job, he said it was like all of the dominoes fell down.
Tell us at or about the time of this young Conorak situation where the police were in his apartment. Can you tell us basically at about that time about the concept of his ability to conform his conduct to requirements of law?
Well, there's a phrase that is sometimes used in forensic work, and the phrase is, if there was a cop at your elbow, if there was a policeman at your elbow. And I said, looking at the behavior, I mean, here was a person, that he was going to drug, to kill, to have sex with, who ran out. The neighbors knew, people on the street, the policeman knew, the fireman knew. The policeman came to his house. There was another dead body in his house.
You mean apartment?
That's in his apartment. I mean, that comes as close as you can get to a policeman at your elbow. And it kind of frightened him, of course, that they were there, but that didn't stop him. He was arrested and on his way to prison, was receiving therapy, and he went out and killed. That's not as close as the policeman in your apartment, but that's kind of close.
At the time of the Conorak situation, what was Jeffrey Dahmer's state as far as his lacking substantial capacity to conform?
I believe he did not have the capacity.
I believe I asked you this. I'm confident I did, but it's been a long afternoon, it's late morning. He was suffering from a mental disease which, in your opinion, was an impairment of the mind. Did I not go through this with you? And that it was enduring?
Yes.
Okay, I've gone through that already. Your answer was that Jeffrey Dahmer was suffering from a mental disease that was an impairment of the mind, that it was enduring, and that it substantially affected his mental or emotional processes at the time of each and every one of the alleged offenses?
Yes.
And that is made to a reasonable degree of psychiatric certainty?
I can't say psychiatric, I can say
First time I did that, and I
psychological.
apologize. Psychological certainty.
Yes.
What about the fact that we have an escalation, in other words, 78, 87, 88, 88, 88, 89, et cetera, and so forth? What do you say about that? Is he controlling himself during these period of times when there's lapses and he is not killing?
Jeffrey still had, from after he had killed the first person, he had the fantasies before. He killed the person.
Mr. Hicks,
yes, he still had a mental disorder, necrophilia. He tried to control it, and he successfully controlled it. And what Jeffrey articulates is with structure. You know, if he's got something to do, if there's in a structured situation, in a sense, by trying not to masturbate, being at his grandmother's house, at least for an initial period there, he was able to control. But then there was, as he mentioned, he's in the library, gets a note, starts breaking down, and you can see, I mean, if you were actually to, at one point there, to start plotting the number of victims, I mean, you would see very quickly how they're mounting and adding up.
That's all I have. Thank you, Doc.
Ms. Wade, how do you want to proceed?
However the court wants. I can go now, or, I mean, it'll take, how late is the court going tonight?
Well, is you're going to cross-examination going to take more than half an hour?
Yes, probably it would.
Then maybe we better start fresh tomorrow morning, huh?
That's fine.
All right, maybe we should start fresh next Sunday, and hopefully my AC will be sorted, folks. We got through 2 videos with Dr. Judith Becker, again, psychologist. And I believe we have some more. Yeah, we're going to get some cross next week. We're going to go into a few more videos of her, and then maybe we'll get into Carl Wallstorm Jr. What a show. What a murder church this morning. What a service. And I still see stuff happening here in chat. Bonnie Bailey, member for 1 month, an anniversary right here, Buzzing Infused. I hope I didn't eat any of those chocolates. I hope you did not either. And I know you've already been here, but party, boom. And pass out the beers there in the chat anyways for Bonnie. Load it up, my friends. You see, Jay, you missed an absolute love fest happening here earlier. And everyone that came through, oh my God, you guys are amazing. You guys are unbelievable. The collection plate is full for this Murder Church episode. You guys are, again, I'm blown away. Crazy. In the social media realm, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. All that'll be dropped there in the link tree that Mandy's going to drop. Follow Jay all over the place as well. Jay is getting ready to go into a mystery trial this week as well. So make sure you're going to check out his stuff. Keep your eye on all the socials again on the community. If you're not subbed up, make sure you're subbed up. Hit the 3 little dots on the side. Make sure all notifications are turned on. Hit the like. Again, I'm going to try to figure out my AC situation. Yeah, there you go. The Shaming and Jay link tree. Bam, right there. That's what I like to see. Mods are the absolute best here. Jamie coming through. Mandy coming through. Thank you all so much. Everybody that came through tonight. Absolutely tonight. See, this is a nighttime show. The mornings get me still. Everyone that came through this morning, thank you very much. Yeah, Mandy right there, throwing it down, letting them know as you guys head out the door, head out the double doors this morning from your pew, hit the like button, and wow, yeah, I'm gonna tell Dan to go back and check this out as well. I want him to see all the love that came through here because it's a beautiful thing. It's awesome. Let's keep growing this thing to the freaking moon, my people. Love it. Pop a few more of these back up on the screen here. Boom. We did it. Thank you for walking through fire with us, Murder Church, Pastor Steve. And thank you, mods. Thank you, Tango Crochet. Absolutely amazing. Boom. And yeah, welcome all new folks here at Publicly Buzzed. All the members here. If you're a member, you are a producer of this content. Get in the Discord. Discord link's going to be there as well. Also, publiclybuzzed.com. You can buy some merch. This Sunday, we have new limited supply, but an offering that is going to be coming from Austin Rains, a longtime supporter here. Go to the Twitter, check it out. Go to the community, posted some pictures of this really dank ass shirt that I cannot wait to offer on Feral Friday this week. Yeah, and keep your eyes again on all the socials for everything that's happening. 4th of July, that is right. Happy 4th of July. Sadly, I have to work tomorrow, but on the 4th of July, I am going to be off, which I'm extremely excited about. Yes, Feral Friday this past Friday. If you didn't see the drinking game show, it was so fun, so amazing. One of me and Dan's favorite, Dan and I's, I should say, favorite episodes that we have done yet. The family was there in full force and made it unbelievable, just like this morning here on Murder Church, guys. Unbelievable. Keep your animals safe. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, because dogs do not like the sound of fireworks. I know my dog does not like it as well. She's going to be barking her head off. So yeah, keep your animals indoors during this. You don't want them to run off. All right, here, Kaylin, I took screenshots and shared them to Jay's Discord so he could see all the Jabo love. That's amazing, Kaylin. Yeah, thank you so much. Can you post that in the Publicly Buzzed Discord? I also want Dan to see that, or tag Dan and Jay's if he's in there. Absolutely amazing. Yes, Kabo, J-Buzzed Nation, killing it. What are we doing out here? Doing big things is what we're doing. Yeah, looking through the chat just here at the end. Everybody, thank you all so much. Thank you, Allie. It was really fun. I'm really about to turn off. Gonna end it. Gonna probably go get something to eat at a restaurant that has air conditioning, or figure out a fan situation here. Love you guys. I will see you probably in the morning with Jay, I would imagine. While I'm at work, hopefully not doing a whole lot. Hopefully people chill out and let us enjoy. I should have took it off. I should have taken a vacation day yesterday. But yeah, thank you guys so much. One more real quick look. Yes, she's got me. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Another week down. Week 6. Another no show by Dan. Get in his inbox. Get on Dan's Twitter and let him know you want him on Murder Church. Thank you guys so much. We love you.
See, we shoot them up bang bang over here. We not scared of they motherfucking ass.